What's up, guys? So today I'm going to go more in depth with Ehlers Danlos, and specifically my kind. I'll I'll briefly go through a couple of the other types. I know back when I was first diagnosed, there were 6 different types. Um, it looks like it probably has been changed since then. Um, it's a little more complicated, it looks like, but also seems they have changed the diagnostic criteria for some of it too. It's a little kind of confusing for me to even understand. But I'll go through the understandable parts, at least for my type, which again is hEDS or Hypermobile Ehlers Danlos is what that stands for. Um, Now the different types, there's the vascular one. That's, from my understanding, is the worst one to get. I think it's the more rare one as well. Vascular, it messes with your veins and stuff. Essentially, from my understanding, is your veins get really small and tight, and so things can't flow through as well, and so it causes all kinds of complications and pain. And usually, with that type, your expectancy is reduced quite significantly, if I remember right. Um, so that one obviously is not one you want to have. Not that you want Ehlers Danlos, period. But um, yeah, the one of the biggest signs of that type that I've been told of from doctors is easy bruising, especially on your arms, and I mean, like, you'll have 10 or so like bruises almost all the time on your arms. If you have like I bruise easily, but not to that extent. Like, I'm always having like maybe 2, 3 bruises between my hands and arms alone, and let alone everywhere else. But it's not all the time. I mean, I'd say probably almost all the time there's at least one. But other than that, it's maybe like 3 at most. Um, so that's one of the biggest things. And I do know that it does. Every condition and every subtype of the condition varies from person to person. I mean, there's a general like checklist of what you could have or should have, and those may vary slightly from person to person. Like a very classic um, trait that people with Ehlers Danlos have is their skin, and it's supposed to be soft and like velvety is how they describe it. But the biggest thing is it's super stretchy. Like, I've seen pictures of people being able to pull out their skin here like all the way out to here. Now I can't do that. Like, the best that I can do is like a little bit, but I don't even think that's like considered crazy. Um, and I don't know if that's just because I don't really got that trait, but my personal belief is that it's more has to do with my psoriasis, plaque psoriasis specifically. Um, I deal with a lot of dry skin, a lot of red, patchy areas, plaque-like surfaces, and it's really like mess with. I've had it since high school. I think like ninth grade or something. That I remember. That's when it got really bad. Anyways, I probably always had it, just not that extreme until ninth grade. Um, so I think that could be why, more than anything else. But who knows? But that's like the biggest, like one of the easiest and biggest indicators um, of having EDS. I know another one that I had to do when I was first getting diagnosed is being able to touch the palms of your hands to the floor while standing without bending your knees. So basically, bend over, can't bend your knees, and if you can touch the floor with your palms, which you shouldn't be able to do, but if you can, that's another big way of figuring it out. When I first did it, I wasn't able to do a full palm touch, but I did at least like the first half of my palm and touched it. I can't do that now because of all the arthritis in my back. I mean, I'm lucky if I can bend over. so, so there's that. There's, like I said, there's several types, and I'm not really gonna go into those too much right now. But there's, I mean, I can read them off. hEDS, yeah, I'm not even gonna try that. Sorry. DEDS, KEDS. The EDS of all it is obviously Ehlers Danlos syndrome. The first letter is the subtype, just FYI. So you can look up all these just based off of that. Like I said, I'm just going through this list. There's at least like 6 in here. I think there might even be 1 or 2 more than that even. I don't know. But regardless, there are a lot of it. All of them suck. Obviously, the kind I have is the most common and probably the less detrimental version. But all of EDS and other connective tissue disorders like Marfans syndrome, which I was first mistaken for ever since I was 5, actually. Everyone thought I had that. But I've been genetically tested, actually. That was one of the few things I was able to get genetically tested, and that was rolled out. So, because that and EDS was my like top 2 contentions of what I might have. I know someone threw on sticklers, and I'm like looking it up. I'm like, not even close. I don't know why they thought that. I think there was one other. I forget what it was called, but I think it had to do with Marfans. So since that was ruled out, all that was left is EDS. But it's still like frustrating. Like not my new rheumatologist, but the one I've had for years. It's like she refuses to classify me legitimately on my documents with EDS. She just puts benign joint hypermobility, which essentially means the same thing, but not everyone takes it that way. So it's kind of annoying, that she doesn't feel comfortable putting that officially because I can't get genetically tested because, at least in California, every genetic test facility or doctor I've ever contacted refuses to take somebody with Ehlers Danlos. I don't know why. They're just like, well, we don't deal with those types of patients. I'm like, cool. I guess we just get screwed. Yeah, that's cool. That's fair. Not. But whatever. Anyways, I digress. So with hEDS, the hypermobile, or hypermobility, however you really want to put it, it's the same thing essentially. So I talked about the soft, smooth, stretchy type skin, and you do bruise easily. I mean, that's just a fact with that. And the dislocations is another big one, or subluxations. The main difference between those is obviously a dislocation is exactly that. It fully dislocates from the socket. So like I've had hips several times just go all like, I remember one time I stood up and just all of a sudden my left hip just like said see ya, and I went flat on the floor. I basically did like a split, which not a sideways split, but a front and back split, and I usually can't do those. And I literally just into a split mode, and I couldn't do anything. It was just like, it was brutally painful, and I didn't know how to fix it, what to do. I didn't know if I should tell my brother-in-law to like pick me up or what. But thankfully, within, I don't know, 5 seconds, or maybe 10 seconds of just sitting there, and all of a sudden, and it just like twisted itself back into place. Was just as equally painful. And then I had him help me up off the floor, and every time that happens, I have to like carefully put weight on that joint, because you can feel that it's like so loose, it's ready to just at any point just go out, and it sucks. Thankfully, I don't get dislocations too often. What I do get a lot of is subluxation, and I've talked about this a little bit. Basically what it is it's a partial dislocation. So like my left shoulder in particular, I have that happen 100 times a day probably, and I mean I can even subluxate it on my own, just moving it back and forth, up and down. Feel that pop, 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 pop. And basically it's just like, if this is the socket, your joint will, instead of sitting like this per se, this isn't obviously 100% accuracy, I'm just giving you an example. And instead of doing this type of thing, which is like a full dislocation, it just kind of like, something of that nature. You can look it up. There's, I'm sure, images or videos of it. But yeah, it's basically just, it's out of alignment, I guess would be a better way of putting it. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but either way, that's what I deal with like on a daily basis. In fact, before I finally broke down and bought a decent bed, first time in my life, I should say, I've ever bought a decent bed. All of mine have been hand-me-downs or cheapos. And up until this bed, every time I woke up, at least a shoulder, a hip, maybe a knee or two, I would constantly have to wake up and go pop, 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 and put it all back in place, because it just, subluxates throughout the night, and that pressure on it, and the, constant tossing and turning, of course. And so yeah, that kind of sucked. And now that I got this nicer bed, it doesn't happen nearly as often. I'll still get like hip pain throughout the night, especially if I'm so out of it that I don't, I sleep on my side. So if I'm not constantly flip-flopping from side to side, that hip will still get like really sore and painful, to the point of actually it wakes me up. And then I flip myself to the other side and rinse and repeat, essentially. So it really sucks. Regardless of that, it has been better with this bed, obviously, but it still happens. And same with the dislocations. I mean, they still happen, but it has been like significantly reduced since I've gotten this bed, as well as my lower back stiffness. I used to wake up every morning and be so stiff and sore and in pain in my lower back especially, that it would take at least 2, sometimes 3 hours before my back would like loosen up enough to where it's not in so much pain, and I can move a little more freely. So now that's been reduced probably to like maybe an hour. And the severity as well isn't as intense, so that's worth it. So I definitely will say, if you can't like pay for one right up front, maybe finance one, have somebody help you get one. I definitely did not think a bed was that huge of a deal, until I found out it is a big of a deal. It's probably been the best thing I've ever purchased for my health in my entire life. And so I would definitely say get one. The one I use, it's the Purple mattress brand. It's their first hybrid level. It's pretty great, so I can't complain. So yeah, if you can, you can. That's something I would definitely work towards getting. So, anyways, there's that. Obviously, the chronic musculoskeletal pain, muscle and bone. Um, you constantly deal with that at least I do, on a day-to-day basis. Some joint will hurt one day, or sometimes it goes in the middle. Like I'll be fine just laying on my bed, and also my left knee will start hurting. And so then kind of have to try to work it out, or walk around a little bit, or just rest it, or whatever it happens to tell me it needs. And then sometimes it just goes away, and then it's something else. I don't understand it, but it sucks. Just also I'm walking in, my left knee's like, oh, almost tripped yet. You know. So yeah. And another one which I have is osteoporosis, or early onset of osteoarthritis. There's a slight difference between the two. I don't remember exactly. You can look it up. But yeah, I have osteoporosis all in my back. It's severe in my lower. It's mild, moderate to severe in like my upper back. It's pretty severe in my hand. At least my left hand. I'm not sure about my right, but it's in my knees. It's in my hips, I believe. It's probably in my feet. I don't think I've had them X-rayed in years. Yeah, who knows where else? Probably everywhere, honestly. And GI issues, gastrointestinal, which I suffer from GERD. I've had it even as long as I was, oh gosh, how long ago was it? It was like, I think I want to say 16 years old. I've had it. And back then I was like super skinny, like a twig, like a $140. And so, it's not weight related, because a lot of times when people are overweight, like I am, they get stuff like acid reflux and whatnots, and a lot of times it's because you're overweight. But I had it when I was super skinny. There's no reason for me to have it other than it's a chronic issue, i.e. GERD, gastrointestinal reflux disease is what it stands for. And I take, Prilosec for that, and I've been on that for 20 years at least, I think. I don't know. I don't have to take it as much anymore now that I switched my diet around. I still take it from time to time, especially if I have a lot of caffeine that day or that week or whatever. I start to take it here and there to kind of make sure it doesn't get too crazy, because it does really suck. Yeah, so there's that. Obviously, cardiovascular issues like I have mitral valve prolapse. I just talked about that yesterday on my Friday update. So I've had that. I don't know if that was something I was born with or something that just kind of developed over, my early teens or something. Because when I was 14, I was diagnosed with it. I would say I'd be surprised if it was something I was born with, because I would think they'd see that, unless it's like such a small hole at that point. I don't know. But hey, I mean, apparently I have a occult spina bifida, and nobody caught that shit until I was like 36. So, kind of odd, but hey, it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, and then obviously the joint hypermobility. Obviously, that's an obvious. I mean, I talked about the palms on the floor. The other ones they have you do, and I've shown it before, is where you can touch. They specifically focus on the thumb one the most, that you can touch to your wrist. I'm guessing because it's probably the hardest one to do, but I can do. Well, I can't do that one anymore because it's my really bad finger, but I can touch all my fingers to my wrist area easily, and then some, and then of course like I can hyperflex it back. Not as I've seen other people like do crazier, but so there's things like that. Those are like the main ones, obviously. And again, it having a connective tissue disorder makes you vulnerable and susceptible to other, ailments and illnesses and all that fun stuff. So yeah, there's that. I'll just say real quick. One reason why, well, there's several reasons why people thought I had Marfans for years instead of Ehlers. Well, Ehlers, I mean, I didn't hear of that term until 2016, and even then, it was still kind of in its infancy in terms of doctors being even knowing or hearing about it. Marfans, I've been told I had that. I mean, I know I had a doctor when I was 5 years old that thought I had that, but nothing really like went anywhere with that. I don't know why, but it wasn't really until I was like 15, 16 that they really started to think I had it. Shortly after I got diagnosed with mitral valve prolapse. That they thought I had that, which makes sense. Because I have a lot of the traits of it, which they are: you have a high palate, the roof of your mouth, or the the attic of your mouth is what Dimitri Martin calls it. But yeah, it's really high, arched up, which mine is. You have extremely flat feet, which mine are probably as flat as they can be. And then you have what's called a concave chest. It's probably can't really see too well, but basically have this indentation in your chest, like right where the top of the rib cage kind of meets to your sternum. I think that's called. Sorry, I'm not very literate. But you'll have this concave, and a lot of Marfans patients, now again, especially with Marfans patients, they vary way more than EDS patients that I'm aware of. And that could have changed. I haven't really dug into Marfan syndrome in a few years, ever since I've been EDS diagnosed, because I'm not diagnosed with it anymore, so... But anyways, their chest is usually like really concave, like it's very prominent. You can easily see it. Mine is just like a little burp, whatever. But there's that. And then the mitral valve prolapse obviously was another big one of it. Between all those and at the time, I was very tall. At the time, I was 6'3". I'm now 6 foot. Lost 3 inches. Woohoo. So I was 6'3", like $140. That's 140 pounds, just FYI. And so in general with Marfan's patients, they're very tall and lanky. So that was another thing. So that's what they thought I had it, and again, back then there wasn't really any genetic testing for it then. It was more like, stress tests, heart rate monitors, and just like a symptom check and just kind of all that stuff, Of course, now there's all kinds of genetic testing, which I had that one rolled out. It was just kind of interesting, and I don't blame them. I mean, even to this day, my I guess I'll say former now rheumatologist, like I said, she kept thinking, oh, maybe you have Marfans or Marfanoid, I think was the other one, which is some form of Marfans. I don't remember exactly, but she was like really hung up on that, and I'm like, I went to Stanford and got extensive testing, and they said I definitely didn't have it. And they actually had like a whole section there dedicated to study of Marfan syndrome. And then I also went to UCLA, and they're like, we think you have it. Yeah, we're fairly certain. So that wasn't very strong of an argument, but yeah, I was like, I don't have it. So I'm glad I got the testing that says you don't have it, because then that really really only, in my opinion, narrows it down to Ehlers, because I don't know what else it would be. That I've looked up a lot of connective tissue disorders, and that's really the only one that fits like 90%. The others are like, oh, I have maybe like half or 60, but nothing as close as Ehlers. So, anyways, that's that. I was just kind of thought that was interesting. But yeah, so treatment with Ehlers is, yeah, generally, they give you, if you're having, like the fibromyalgia type pain with it, which I do, they give you stuff like gabapentin, or which I'm on, or if it's really bad, Lyrica, or Cymbalta is the other one. I don't know. That could be totally wrong. But I know Lyrica is definitely one of them. That's like the highest one for severe. I was on it for a while actually, and that medicine, it like I felt great in terms of the fibromyalgia, but I noticed after I was on it for like a month, I can tell my my emotions and my like brain chemistry was being altered in a not so good way. Like I can feel like this fury, rage, just like in like deep inside me, just like waiting just to like lash out at somebody for anything. And I know I'm like always like have anger issues, but this was like nothing like I've experienced, and it was not just that. I can tell my mental state was just like not in a good place, and I did not feel myself, feel like myself. It was not good, and so I eventually, between that and the other one I tried, it was another horrible side effect with that. That was not good either. So I had to stick with gabapentin, and I've gone up and down on that dosage, from being on the max of like 2,400 milligrams to where I'm at now, which is at like 18. And 18 is tolerable. I can live with it. With the that level of pain, it's it is what it is. It's better than feeling it at 100%, right? So, but anyways, there's other issues. Obviously, exhaustion or fatigue with Ehlers. I talked about the spoon theory, right? If you have 12 spoons that day, which each spoon represents, doing a chore or going out, having fun or whatever, right? So that's a big part of it, as well as, at least in my experience. I mean, I know this is probably also due to medication and all my other illnesses, but I know I have, I think they call it memory fog, where you just like, you're just kind of like always in a haze, or you just always forget things easily. Like I literally could have had a conversation yesterday with someone in my family, and then all of a sudden we're having a conversation the next day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just talked about that yesterday. Don't you remember?" I'm like, what? We did? Huh? Like I have zero recollection of it. Like it literally was just deleted from my memory bank. I'm an old like Macintosh PC, and instead of like a newer Windows or something. It's like it does suck, because it's so frustrating for the most part. It's just frustrating. Like I know people joke all the time. My memory's so bad. I literally walked in the kitchen, and I forgot when I walked into the kitchen. Well, magnify that by like 1,000, because that's literally how bad it is for me. I literally just have the hardest time with remembering things. I have this one buddy of mine that tells me all the time. He's like, "Dude, we just talked about this. Dude, I already told you how to do that. Dude." I feel bad, but it's like I can't help it. I don't, it is what it is. So you just gotta kind of roll with it, and So, but anyways, I've probably taken up a lot of your guys' time. Yep. Okay. But yeah, that's that's a good chunk of Ehlers mixed in with some Marfans there for you. And again, maybe in a future video, I'll maybe pick apart each subtype of Ehlers and kind of give you breakdowns on any of them. But I just kind of want to go a little more in depth with mine and the things I deal with it and whatnot. And I think I forgot to mention yesterday that I have a urology appointment. It's not until like May something, which is stupid. But I've been in pain ever since. I've been in pain for a while, but that newer pain that came on a month or two ago, it's still there now. It's like almost a constant presence, and so now I'm just trying to like wait till I see the doctor to see if I have Crohn's or colitis or some other jacked up disease. Thanks to Ehlers. But I'm trying to do my due diligence on my part before I see them. And what I mean by that is I'm starting to keep a food log of things I eat, and then if I feel any pain that day, if it's worse, if it's better, what type of pain, where, all that junk, just so that I know they're gonna ask you to do something like that, and so I'm gonna get that out of the way when I get to them. They're like, here, I already have it for you. And then I also I looked up types of supplements that is good for somebody who has Crohn's or colitis, and now I got those, and I'm gonna start taking those from now until I see them and see if I see an improvement or some benefit to it. And I'll let them know about that because I know they're probably gonna suggest that too. Because I just want to try to get to a diagnosis, which then will get me to treatment per se. So yeah, it's always good to do your due diligence on things like that. So I highly recommend it, especially if you're going to see a new specialist or something to talk about stuff that's going on. Keeping a journal is always good about that stuff. So I appreciate you guys. That's it for now. And I'm really grateful for all of you who watch, and please like, subscribe, and share. Leave any comments or questions you may have. Thanks again, and love you guys. I'll see you guys next time.